on this Sunday night, backing Ukraine. G7 nations pledge new aid in the war.
Are you satisfied with the support that Canada's been giving to Ukraine?
As Russia claims victory in the battle for Bakhmut, but Ukraine says not so fast. The fight to protect Fox Creek, Alberta, plus the anxiety among homesick evacuees. Canada's daycare deserts.
It really is a horror story for families.
Which provinces have it the worst, and the possible solutions? And praise from Princess Anne, what the royal had to say to a Canadian regiment.
Global National with Farah Nasser.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us. A G7 summit unlike any other has wrapped up in Japan. And while the to-do list of pressing world issues was long, Ukraine's defense against Russia's invasion was at the top of the agenda, especially with President Volodymyr Zelensky's surprise appearance. Leaders of the world's most powerful democracies are largely united on helping Ukraine, but there was disagreement about another unrelated issue. Mackenzie Gray explains in our top story tonight.
A hug and a handshake for the world's most sought-after man.
It's so nice to get to see you in person.
Happy to see you. Thank you very much. Thank you, your government, of course, Canadian people for supporting us.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy barnstorming his way through the G7. Getting new weapon and aid from allies, including a $375 million bundle from Joe Biden.
A package that includes more ammunition, artillery, armored vehicles to bolster Ukraine's battlefield abilities.
That's in contrast with Canada, who only announced new sanctions and an openness to train Ukrainian pilots. When asked by Global News about a lack of new Canadian aid, Zelenskyy hinted a new deal was coming soon.
Are you satisfied with the support that Canada's been giving to Ukraine in the last number of months?
I would like you to understand, we have powerful relations with Canada. There are some of the points which maybe publicly cannot be commented. So far, we don't have anything to make public. We are working on something, but Canada is supporting us.
The immediate Ukrainian ask of Canada,
Real pleasure to be with you today.
To win over Brazil. President Lula da Silva has previously said Ukraine should give up Crimea, and that both Kyiv and Moscow were equally responsible for the war. Justin Trudeau wouldn't say if Lula budged, instead reaffirming Canada would support Kyiv for the long haul.
Had we not been there with significant military support, Ukraine would not be standing today.
And while there's unity on the war, Justin Trudeau found himself in a rare fight with a G7 member.
Canada is concerned about some of the positionings that Italy is taking in terms of the LGBT rights.
That comment from Trudeau referencing a directive by the Italian government to limit parental recognition of LGBTQ couples. Leading the Italian Prime Minister to say Trudeau was a victim of fake news and propaganda.
It's an issue that matters deeply to me and to Canadians, and I said what was necessary to be said.
The summit is now wrapped, but the Prime Minister believes the choice of Hiroshima to host the G7 will continue to serve as an important reminder to the leaders of the horrors of nuclear war, as the specter of a Russian nuclear attack hangs over the conflict in Ukraine. Farah?
Mackenzie Gray in Hiroshima, Japan. Thank you for that, Mackenzie. And during President Zelensky's visit in Japan, Russia came out claiming the longest battle of the war was over. After months of fierce fighting, the Kremlin says Russian-backed forces have taken control of the Eastern-Ukrainian city of Bakhmut. As Redmond Shannon explains, Zelenskyy appeared to confirm that victory, only to roll it back later on.
A wartime leader acknowledging and reflecting on the most horrific end to a war ever known. Volodymyr Zelenskyy alongside Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida at the Hiroshima Peace Memorial. A reminder of how 2 US atomic bombs killed at least 100,000 people in Hiroshima and Nagasaki 78 years ago. Zelenskyy said the old images of destroyed Hiroshima reminded him of the city of Bakhmut, Ukraine, as it looks today. On Sunday, Russian TV showed the gutted remains of Bakhmut, along with a statement of congratulations from Vladimir Putin. The Kremlin now says Bakhmut has been fully captured from Ukraine after a 9-month battle led by the Russian mercenary Wagner Group. In a second such message of the weekend, the head of Wagner, Yevgeny Prigozhin, said there are no Ukrainian soldiers in Bakhmut because we have stopped taking prisoners. It has been captured down to the last centimetre. Back in Hiroshima, Zelenskyy initially appeared to confirm the news.
President Zelenskyy, is Bakhmut still in Ukraine's hands? The Russians say they've taken Bakhmut.
I think no. But you have to understand that there is nothing. They destroyed everything.
But with Ukrainian forces claiming they still had a foothold, Zelenskyy later clarified, saying the battle is not over.
They are in Bakhmut today. Where exactly, I'm not going to tell you, but this means that Bakhmut has not been conquered by Russia.
At this point, it may be semantics or just a matter of time before Russia holds 100% control of Bakhmut. Zelenskyy said that his soldiers who remain are fulfilling an important task, likely referring to their continuation of a long battle that has drained Russian resources. That ahead of the anticipated Ukrainian counteroffensive, something Zelenskyy says Russia will feel when it happens. Much of the land Ukraine aims to retake is now little more than just that. Land. Redmond Shannon, Global News, London.
There's relief in the forecast for hundreds of firefighters battling wildfires in northern Alberta. Rain and cooler temperatures are expected in the days to come after a tense few days in Fox Creek, northwest of Edmonton. As Blake Lough explains, the fire threatening the town has finally reached its defenses.
Buzzing overhead, a parade of helicopters drop bucket after bucket of water on smoldering hotspots. A flurry of activity along Highway 43 just north of Fox Creek. Layer after layer of fire guard dug up around the community has succeeded in keeping the flames out.
To my understanding, the fire has not moved closer to the communities, and we are continuing to work hard to hold it.
The highway that had been closed since Friday now finally reopened. But police warn the threat is still very real and are cautioning those who can finally get through to go slow.
There are active fire operations going on to suppress, slow down, deplete the fire of its fuel resources, right? And that's not just on the ground, but we also do have air support that is up there.
Still early in the season, wildfires in Alberta have scorched nearly 1 million hectares of land.
While we're optimistic that the forecast rain will be enough to make a difference to some wildfires in the province, we are not out of the woods yet.
Very anxious to get home, and that has happened right since the beginning.
Fox Creek Mayor Sheila Gilmore says she's seen her community go through a range of emotions, from fear and frustration to a feeling of defeat. But the most recent reports are positive.
There's some optimism there for sure, but we just need to see the rain start, and then I think things will feel a lot better.
Fox Creek, after so many days of scorching dry heat, is now under a rainfall warning. 50 to 75 millimeters is expected by Wednesday. It's rainfall that, for many Albertans, can't come soon enough. Blake Lough, Global News, Fox Creek, Alberta.
And on that note, the change in weather could help Alberta's air quality, which is now among the worst in the world. Take a look at this air quality map from IQ Air, and you can see Alberta is highlighted in red, signifying the severely unhealthy conditions right now. The purple spots, even worse. And this is what Edmonton looked like today, with smoke smothering the whole city. The air quality health index is a 10+, which is very high risk. The conditions have led to several long weekend activities being canceled. Now, Calgary is smoky too, but it's not as bad. The air quality health index there is a lot lower at 3. From raging wildfires here in Canada to catastrophic flooding overseas, there's a new look tonight at the devastation rising waters have caused in northern Italy. 36,000 people have been forced from their homes. Many stranded residents don't have electricity. Last week, some areas were inundated with 6 months' worth of rain in just 36 hours. The death toll remains unchanged at 14. The Italian government will meet on Tuesday to decide on emergency response measures. A stampede at a soccer stadium in El Salvador's capital has killed at least 12 people and injured dozens of others. Video posted to social media shows the aftermath, with emergency crews treating people on the field before taking them to hospital. The stampede erupted during a playoff soccer game. Police and witnesses say angry ticket holders were locked out before the game, prompting them to storm the stadium. Investigators believe too many tickets, both real and fake, were sold. El Salvador's government is promising a thorough investigation. Allegations of Chinese interference in Canadian democracy have dogged the Prime Minister for months. Justin Trudeau has been resisting calls for a public inquiry into the matter. Instead, he's appointed former Governor General David Johnston to decide whether an inquiry is necessary. As our chief political correspondent David Akin explains, Johnston will make his recommendation public on Tuesday.
Conservatives think David Johnston needs to make just one recommendation.
We want to see him call for a full public independent inquiry. I think that's what Canadians want. I think that's what we need to have to get the answers.
The Bloc Québécois wants the same thing, and so too do the New Democrats.
We're looking for a public inquiry. I mean, the leader has been very clear, and as the first person to ask for it, people across this country need to know that our electoral system is working. We want to make sure that foreign interference is being dealt with in a meaningful way.
Liberals, on the other hand, have been more ambivalent about the need for a public inquiry.
I am looking for him to lay out a whole process as to how to deal with this in a way that can clarify the situation, respect national security concerns, and you know, all the obligations that we have to the people who are collecting this information for our different agencies, as well as for our allies.
David Johnston was appointed Governor General under Stephen Harper's Conservative government. Even with that, and with Johnston's background as a constitutional law expert, the Conservatives believe Johnston is in a hopelessly compromised position.
He is Justin Trudeau's ski buddy, his cottage neighbor, his family friend, and a member of the Trudeau Foundation, which got $140,000 from Beijing. He has a fake job, and he's unable to do it impartially.
But whatever Johnston recommends in Tuesday's report, Trudeau is already on the record saying he will follow those recommendations. So if Johnston does recommend a public inquiry, Trudeau's going to make it happen. Farah.
David Akin in Ottawa. Thank you for that, David. It's becoming more affordable, but there's still no guarantee parents can find childcare in the first place. Coming up, how common daycare deserts have become. Protesters in France aren't giving up fighting those widely unpopular pension reforms. Demonstrators today marched near the prestigious Cannes Film Festival. Angry, President Emmanuel Macron passed a law last month raising the retirement age from 62 to 64. Authorities have largely stopped the protests from disrupting the star-studded event, banning rallies throughout much of the city. Affordable childcare is an elusive dream for many Canadian parents. The federal government has promised to make it cheaper with a $10 a day program, but there's another major hurdle: having enough facilities to meet the demand. As Brittany Rosen explains, some parts of Canada are experiencing daycare deserts.
Putting your child in daycare has become much more affordable, thanks to each province's deal with Ottawa to slash the price to $10 a day over the next 5 years. But now that the price barriers have been broken, demand for childcare has skyrocketed, creating yet another hurdle for parents finding a spot.
It really is a horror story for families. Often people will try and put themselves on waiting lists when they discover that they're pregnant, and still they won't get a childcare space.
A new report from the Canadian Centre of Policy Alternatives is highlighting just how dire the situation is in Canada. It says out of nearly 2 million children below the age of eligibility to enter kindergarten, 946,000 are living in daycare deserts, meaning at least 3 children per postal code are competing for a single spot.
It's really awful for families, a huge stressor, and really impacts the ability of one parent, typically the mother, to participate in the workforce.
Among the provinces with the highest proportion of younger children living in childcare deserts, Saskatchewan, which saw 92%, Newfoundland and Labrador at 79%, and Manitoba with 76%. A critical part of the problem, according to experts, is a shortage of early childhood educators.
Childcare trained staff with a couple of years of college education are paid as if they only had a high school education.
According to the report, PEI in Quebec had the lowest rates of childcare deserts.
They did their major reforms on affordability back in the late 1990s and the turn of the century, the early 2000s. And so they've been working on the problem for 25 years to expand access to childcare.
Experts say raising staff wages, investing in nonprofits, and expanding before and after school programs will ease the burden on early childhood educators. Brittany Rosen, Global News, Toronto.
Lies and deceit ahead, how scammers are swindling unsuspecting victims with increasingly creative cons. Scammers are always trying to find fresh, clever ways to get your cash. No matter the method, they know they can succeed if they scare you. One Calgary woman recently got duped after she'd been told she was hacked. And as Tamasia De Silva explains, it shows just how tech-savvy fraudsters have become.
You've been hit by a smooth. Oh, they are smooth. They are smooth talkers, very convincing.
So convincing that with just one phone call, they conned Jennifer Agnew out of $2,500.
I should have seen the red flags.
That phone call supposedly from a fraud investigator with Amazon. She was told her account had been hacked. A package was on the way to someone else, and she would have to pay a cool $1,000 unless she acted now.
I put in the app he asked me to.
That app, AnyDesk, the remote software application, was supposed to get her access to Amazon's secure site. Instead, it gave the scammer access to everything on her phone.
He was literally right in my phone. Yep.
Including text conversations she was having at that very moment.
At the time, my boyfriend was texting me, and the guy on the other end was like, "Why are you getting text messages? Why is your boyfriend telling you this is a scam?"
She realized it was, but it was too late. She had opened another app, one for a digital wallet, sending the scammer the money.
I didn't want to lose my money. Well, I lost it anyway because it was a total scam.
Those apps have a lot of power.
Cybersecurity expert Amanda Swain says anytime you install new software, especially if someone asks you to, you need to consider the dangers.
A lot of these tools have dual purposes. Is I may install it or get my mom to install it so I can help her troubleshoot some of her phone issues. But a scammer can use it for the same methods to try and extract information from you, extract payment from you.
You've been hit by a smooth criminal.
Exactly what these smooth criminals did. Tamasia De Silva, Global News.
Royal respect. Next, Princess Anne praises Canada's oldest regiment as it marks a military milestone. People in New Brunswick got a rare opportunity to catch a glimpse of royalty this May-long weekend. The sister of King Charles, Princess Anne, was in the province for a 3-day tour, and as Meghan King explains, the royal also visited Canada's oldest military regiment.
The third and final day of Princess Anne's visit to New Brunswick marked the 175th anniversary of the 8th Canadian Hussars Regiment, of which she's Colonel-in-Chief. The Princess Royal first arrived in downtown Moncton Friday morning via helicopter, laying a wreath at the memorial honoring the 3 RCMP members killed in the 2014 shooting and speaking with the families of the slain officers. Saturday, she donned the Hussars' red and blue colors, the latest of several visits since being appointed to her role with the regiment in June 1972, when she was just 21.
There's a very deliberate process of what we wanted to display, how we wanted to emphasize our members, their families.
Her emphasis has been, and I think it always has been and always will be, an interest in the soldiers, how the soldiers are feeling, how they're trained, what their morale is like, what their experiences are like. So On the parade, you've seen it. She stops and speaks to soldiers individually, and I can attest to the fact that she is keenly interested. It's very engaging.
The 8th Canadian Hussars commanding officer says the Princess Royal voiced her pleasure with how the regiment is operating.
Very intelligent questions. Yearly, the regiment would be sending Her Royal Highness a situation report via VTC or on the telephone. It just so happens that this year we were able to do it face-to-face, which is basically the gold standard.
A rainier day on Sunday, Princess Anne left Moncton for Sussex, New Brunswick, unveiling a plaque at Museum Square to celebrate the anniversary.
We had to come because Anne is the only daughter, and she represents, I think, the monarchy and the duty and the service.
Amassing crowds of hundreds of people over the course of the trip, Princess Anne ended her New Brunswick visit back at the Greater Moncton Romeo LeBlanc International Airport, boarding a plane for Montreal. Megan King, Global News, Halifax.
And that's Global National for this Sunday night. I'm Farah Nasser. On behalf of our whole crew here, I want to thank you so much for spending part of your long weekend with us. Tonight's Dear Canada is Edmonton's annual Vaisakhi Nagar Kirtan Parade. The city's Sikh community is celebrating its culture this May-long weekend. The parade marks the creation of the collective faith of Sikhism and is the beginning of the harvest season. Sophie Louie will be at the anchor desk tomorrow. Until next time, take care of yourselves and take care of each other. Good night.